Hey guys, how you doing? Luna here with a new video. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm really excited because we're going to be ranking every single song George Harrison put out with the Beatles. Now, the main reason why I wanted to do this is because I've been uploading quite a few videos about the Beatles to my channel, and believe me, the George Harrison slander has been off the charts. People keep underrating this man. They don't understand how much of a genius he was. He was a great songwriter and a great guitarist, but a lot of people still don't know. So I thought, a good way to show people how good he actually was is by taking every single song he put out with the band and showing, there's some pretty good songs in it by ranking it from worst to best. Now, I will be counting every single piece of music he released with the Beatles, which means the covers are also going to be here. I know that it shouldn't count because he didn't write them, so he doesn't take all the credit or all the creative credit for the track. However, I do believe it's an important part of his contributions to the band, which is the reason why I'm going to be including them in this video. Before we get into it though, I want to make sure you guys understand that I am not a scholar, I am not a music connoisseur or anything like that. I'm just a guy that loves music and likes to put his opinion out here on the internet, so you don't really need to get angry if I put a song in a place you don't agree with. You just have to make your own list, put it down below in the comments, and I'll make sure to read it and give you my opinion on your opinion. It's as simple as that. I keep repeating this in every single video because people make comments like, oh, you don't know enough about the Beatles, you don't have enough knowledge, do more research. Dude, I'm literally just giving an opinion. I don't need research to give an opinion, so let's relax, let's just enjoy the video. And once again, if you disagree, we can have a wonderful debate in the comment section, a little back and forth about this man's wonderful output of songs. So there's quite a few songs in here. There's 26 songs in total, so I don't really want to make this intro too long because the video is going to be massive if I do. So let's go on with number 26. And number 26 is going to be Roll Beethoven, released in 1963 in the album with the Beatles. Now, remember how I said that I was going to include covers in this video? Well, most of them are going to be at the very bottom, simply because George Harrison doesn't have the energy to perform these classics. I mean, when I listen to this song, I can only imagine a blank expression on George Harrison's face. The lack of energy in George Harrison's voice in this track is so obvious that it's overwhelming. You kind of forget that the guitar playing is stiff, the vocals are very aggressively produced, and the drumming is not really great. So that's the reason why it's at number 26. Something similar happens with number 25, Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, released in Beatles For Sale in 1964. The thing with this song and what makes it a little better is the fact that George Harrison's performance is a little more melodic, has a little bit more energy behind it. It's not really a rocker, it's kind of like a nice little pop rock song from the 60s. It gets to the point where I don't really hate the song. Actually, I kind of enjoy it when I listen to Beatles For Sale. I don't really mind it at all. The only problem is that, good luck finding George Harrison's voice and all the echo that's added for no reason. Alright, so next song is going to be Don't Bother Me, releasing with the Beatles 1963. This is kind of controversial. I know that a lot of people believe that only because of the fact that this is an original song, it should be higher than any cover because it's a song fully credited to George Harrison. However, I have to say that the songs that are above this one are so enjoyable and so much more fun that I cannot bring myself to put Don't Bother Me above them, so I'm going to try my best to make a balance between, original songs and covers. This song is as insufferable as Roll Over Beethoven. The only reason why this one's higher is because I believe that the fact that it was written, by George Harrison gives it a few extra points. But for the most part, man, I hate when I'm listening to With the Beatles and this song plays because the guitar playing is awful. I believe the vocals are so aggressively mixed. It's kind of like the same thing that happened with Roll Over Beethoven. I don't know why. I'm going to be saying that a lot in this video because George Martin had this habit of producing George Harrison's voice in the most horrible way possible. And it was only him and Ringo, because when it came to Lennon and McCartney, he didn't do that, and it's weird that he did that with George because his voice is so angelic and so melodic, he doesn't really need it. And you'll see that in a few of the songs that are higher that are also covers, and don't suffer from this terrible production, so for the most part, I don't really see why people like this song. I've seen people praising this song. I don't really understand it. It's number 24 for me, but honestly, in terms of overall enjoyability, it should be last. At number 23, we probably have the most questionable placement in this entire list. Only a Northern song so low on the list can be blasphemy for a lot of you, especially those that are devoted to praise the songs that came out of the psychedelic era George Harrison had in the mid-60s, But personally, this song is a mockery. I can't take it seriously because the track doesn't take itself seriously. The song was made as a mockery for publishing companies because George wrote a song, performed the song, and even helped producing the song, but then this company that only took care of the marketing, in most cases, get more royalties than him. That's the reason why the song was even created in the first place. It's an attempt to make a psychedelic song, but using all the wrong chords, and the lyrics are also awful and incredibly pretentious. I mean, if you're listening to this song and you think the chords are wrong, well, they're not. We just wrote it like that. I mean, peak writing right there. The reason why I didn't put it lower is simply because, it's at least interesting. But other than that, it's far from enjoyable. And if it was in terms of enjoyability only, it would definitely be lower. At number 22, we have Chains, released in the album Please Please Me. A big part of me wants to put this song higher. It's pure ear candy. It's one of my favorite moments from Please Please Me, but it's a cover, so I can't really give George Harrison all the credit for it. Something similar happens with the next entry here, number 21, Devil in Her Heart, released in the following album with the Beatles. It's a song that's so enjoyable to listen to. I love the harmonies. I love how Lennon and McCartney help with the backing vocals. I love the melody and how incredibly playful George Harrison sounds in both songs. It seems like he was actually enjoying himself when he performed both these songs, and the vocals are not as aggressively produced this time around. So thank you, George Martin. At number 20, we have the final cover, I believe. Yeah, it's the last cover. Do You Want to Know a Secret, released in Please Please Me. My favorite from Harrison. I have to say the melody is so enjoyable. I love the falsetto runs he does in the chorus of the song. There's not a lot to say about this song other than the fact that it's really, really enjoyable. I love the creamy texture of the guitar playing here, and George Harrison's voice sounds amazing in the song too. Thank you, George Martin, for not ruining it for everybody. Thank you. Random applause, everybody. At number 19, we have Savoy Truffle. I mean, there's some people out there that truly love this track. I personally don't know how you can come to believe this song is one of his most enjoyable from the White Album, especially because you have tracks like Long, Long, Long and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. This has to be one of the biggest contrasts in terms of quality from the entirety of the band's discography. On one side, you have some of the most incredible songs ever written, and on the other side you have this mess with horns and bad lyrics and just very aggressively produced vocals. Once again, I don't like, it's not that I don't like the track, it's just that it's a really big contrast in terms of quality compared to the other songs in that album. That's why it falls so low. The song overall, I don't mind it, but it's really a fall from grace when it comes to his contributions for that album. Alright, so at number 18, we have You Like Me Too Much from the Help soundtrack, released in 1965. I have to say, dude, for the longest time, I thought this song was a cover. This is the least George Harrison song George Harrison ever wrote. I mean, it's a nice song, it's a nice tune, I don't hate it, but I don't really see myself listening to this song outside of the album Help. It does its job in the album, that's pretty much all I can say about it, but outside of it, it's very underwhelming. At number 17, we have the song Piggies from the White Album, released in 1968. I don't really have anything bad to say about this song. The melody is catchy. I really like the classical tune it offers and the playful nature, almost cartoonish type of piano playing that's found throughout the song is kind of wholesome in a way. But honestly, a song about pigs is not going to find itself too high on this list, especially because it's placed halfway through the greatest piece of music ever made, which is the White Album. So, I'm not an expert, but that doesn't seem like a great move. At number 16, we have the track Love You Too from the album Revolver, released in 1966. Now, before I get all the comments going like, ugh, you just don't understand how important this song was for the Indian music scene, Listen, I understand how this song was really important at a certain time, but even for George Harrison as a songwriter, this Indian classical music thing wasn't really that big of a deal, because as soon as he got into his solo discography, he barely even touched the idea of this type of music. There's a few albums and even a few songs in records like All Things Must Pass where he kind of plays with the idea once more, but really the most important pieces of music that George Harrison ever released was the most melodic, folky, pop rock kind of tunes he developed in Abbey Road and the White Album, not this type of thing. So while it might have been really influential and a lot of people think it was incredibly groundbreaking at the time, that doesn't take away from the fact that the song overall, the instrumentation, the production, everything feels very invasive. Everything is in your face. You lose track of the plot because the sitar is so present in your ears that you cannot pay attention to any other factor of the instrumentation, or that's personally how I feel. Definitely not my favorite song from Revolver. He has 2 songs in that album that are so much better than this one. I don't really know why this song gets that much attention, so it's gonna fall at 16. I'm not gonna say that I hate this track because I don't. I think it fulfills a purpose in the album Revolver, but that's pretty much it. I almost never listen to this song outside of that album. Alright, so we have the first and only song from A Hard Day's Night at number 15, I'm Happy Just to Dance With You. I don't know if this counts as a cover because I believe that Paul McCartney and John Lennon wrote this song for George Harrison, so I don't know if you guys want to count that as original or not, but personally I think it fits him really well. It's very obvious that this wasn't a George Harrison song because of the way the melody works and because it's a solid performance. I do feel like his voice or his he feels uncomfortable while performing the song, especially when you look at the live performances. But I personally think this is a really catchy song. I love the thumping on the drums, I love the echo that's produced from it, I love George Harrison's performance throughout the whole thing, and I think the rhythm of the guitar is also really catchy. So I wouldn't say this is one of my favorites from his Beatlemania years, but it's definitely a song that I dance to every time it plays in A Hard Day's Night, So number 15, definitely a really enjoyable song. I absolutely love it. At number 14, we have It's All Too Much, released in the Yellow Submarine soundtrack in 1968. Now this song is great. I love the distortion in the guitar, the heaviness of the track, it's so forward thinking. I love the dreamy melody and chaotic nature of the instrumentation. The bass sometimes can feel like a little too much, it's really present in the song. It's clearly noticeable compared to the rest of the elements, and it can kind of knock you off the atmosphere the track manages to build through this drum sounds and distorted guitars. I believe that songs like this use the influence that George Harrison received from the Indian classical music scene way more effectively than some of the songs from Sgt. Pepper's and Revolver. So personally for me, I think this is a really good and underrated track that more people should pay attention to. It's a victim to the album where it's in. Yellow Submarine is by far the weakest album the band ever released, so a lot of people haven't even heard this track, which is a mistake because it's really good. At number 13, we have Old Brown Shoe, released as a single. I think it was a B-side to The Ballad of John and Yoko, if I'm not wrong, in 1969. There's so many people who haven't even heard this song. The title is not that provocative. I kind of understand why you wouldn't want to click in a song that has such a terrible title. And I definitely wouldn't call this like peak George Harrison or anything like that. In 1969, he was releasing songs like Something and Here Comes the Sun, and so this is definitely underwhelming compared to that. But the lyrics are fun, that's a really fast-paced, catchy song. Paul is the drummer this time around, it's not Ringo. That may explain the reason why the drumming and the bass are so in sync in this song. It's a great listen. I think that more people should listen to this song. At number 12, we have Think For Yourself, released in Rubber Soul 1965. Now, this album was the point where George Harrison actually gained the confidence he needed as a songwriter to compete with John Lennon and Paul McCartney. And Think For Yourself is the perfect representation of that confidence I'm talking about, because this is an amazing song that is at the same level of the rest of the tracks from Rubber Soul. It's worthy of being in such a legendary album, often ranked among the greatest albums ever released. At its core, there's nothing too complex about this song. It's a very simple pop rock tune, but it's in little details like the harmonies being so dynamic, or the fuzz bass, for example, adding this extra layer of complexity to the instrumentation, making it a little cartoonish almost. It's these little details that make the difference between a good track and a great track, between a normal song and a groundbreaking piece of music. So yeah, number 12, I love this song. At number 11, we have Within You Without You from Sgt. Pepper's, released in 1967. I know that people are going to give me so much shit for not putting this song at least in the top 10, but hear me out. I understand how you can listen to the song for the first time and get this feeling or notice this aura of mystery surrounding surrounding the song. You know, the string arrangements, the lyrics telling you that you're a fool because you don't believe in God, basically, the meditational performance by George Harrison. There's a lot of elements that tell you that this is another level of music. However, on subsequent listens, once you've listened to the song more than 5 times, the layer of mystery peels off slowly but surely, and you're left with the bare bones of the track. And the bare bones are not really that interesting or enjoyable, which is the reason why I believe that this song tanks the pace of an album like Sgt. Pepper's. It's one of the main reasons why that album is a little tiny weeny bit overrated in my opinion. Still a great album, but a little bit overrated because it has songs like these with ideas that were not properly executed. Alright, so barely cracking the top 10, we have Blue AJ, released in 1967 in the album Magical Mystery Tour. A lot of the things I said about Within You Without You apply to this song too. There's like a layer of mystery surrounding the track based on the instrumentation, based on the elements that build the track, but once you peel them off, once you listen to the song enough times for it not to be as mysterious as it was at first, you're gonna find yourself not enjoying it that much. It's usually the opposite with the Beatles song. The more you listen to it, the more comfortable you feel with it, and that's a good thing in most cases, not really with this song. So I remember the first time I listened to the song, I was blown away, but then, nowadays when I listen to the track, I just enjoy the melody because it has a really nice melody. It's very mystical, but there's a few things about the production too, like the ventilator vocals thing that I'm not really into, that, tank the song's pace in my opinion. At number 9, we have I Want to Tell You, released in the album Revolver in 1966. Now, underrated song, my god. There are so many people that would rank songs like Within You Without You, Old Brown Shoe above this one, and I don't really understand why. There's so many elements that make this song not only enjoyable because the melody is really catchy, but also incredibly interesting. The dissonance between McCartney and George in the melody of the song. You have the incredible piano playing, you have the guitar, the drums, they sound so sharp and so loud. The melismatic nature of McCartney's backing vocals, this track truly shows that George Harrison is also a genius when it comes to inventive songwriting, so that's the reason why it lands at number 9. At number 8, we have The Inner Light, released as a single in 1968. I believe, this, in my opinion, is the best song to come out of George Harrison's psychedelic era. I love how the flute and his soft and, shiny vocals contrast with the rest of the instrumentation that, once again, is based on Indian classical music. It's used in such an effective way, and it sounds like George Harrison. I think this is the song where George Harrison actually managed to adapt that genre to his own sound. Actually, I believe the song would be much higher if it weren't for some elements in the instrumentation that feel a little too invasive. The sitar, for example, or the drumming. Sometimes it can be a little too much in your face, but other than that, this is an amazing song, one of my favorite psychedelic songs from the Beatles, and I think it's really underrated because it was never released on an album. So it's a mystery why the song was not included in the White Album. Really, I would have loved to hear this side of George Harrison in that album too. At number 7, we have Taxman, released in 1966 in the album Revolver. The fact that this is a song that complains about taxes makes me want to put it at number 1 immediately, but no, we have to stay focused. Listen, believe it or not, even though I believe this is a great opener for Revolver, I love this song to death. I love the guitar solo, it sounds so sharp. I love the drums, I love the meandering bass line. Paul McCartney is always top tier when it comes to putting a good bass line on a song. It definitely shows a more confident side of George that I love seeing, but personally for me, even if it's just a little bit, I think the song is overrated. People put Taxman higher than songs like Here Comes the Sun and even While My Guitar Gently Weeps. That's how ridiculous the praise for this song can get, and I personally don't subscribe to it. It's a great song. Number 7 in the George Harrison Beatle releases is an impressive feat, but I don't really think it's as good as some of the most masterful pieces of music that album has to offer. Eleanor Rigby, Gotta Get You Into My Life, Tomorrow Never Knows, Good Day Sunshine, Here, There, and Everywhere. So many great songs. So you're telling me the Taxman is the best one? No, not really.
2,000 years later.
Alright, so we're doing a little time traveling here, you guys, because as you can see, I have different clothing, my hair is wet, and this is a completely different day. I'm recording this the next day, mainly because I was almost done with the editing of the video, and I realized I forgot to add two songs that are really important, you know, the last two songs George Harrison released with the Beatles. So instead of including the songs in the list, we're just gonna put it up as honorable mentions, and the first song we're talking about today, it's For Your Blue. This is a very underwhelming track considering all the songs George Harrison had ready in 1970 that were later released in All Things Must Pass. I would go as far as to say that this song doesn't even deserve to be in Let It Be. I believe that it doesn't have the quality or the substance to belong in an album as good as Let It Be. It's not that I don't like the song, I like the folk blues vibe it offers, but for the most part, compared to some of the other songs that George Harrison was writing at the time, like My Sweet Lord, If Not For You, or I'd Have You Anytime, this is definitely one of the weakest ones. Then after that we have I Me Mine, which is the complete opposite. This is one of my favorite compositions by George Harrison, one of the most enjoyable ones too. I like the dark and, you know, aggressive tone of the song. You can tell that he was fed up with the egos in the band, and actually one of the most frustrating things about the recording of this song is the lack of involvement that John Lennon, you know, had throughout the whole thing, because in the Let It Be documentary you can see footage of John Lennon and Yoko dancing the waltz while the band is trying to rehearse the song, you know, so it's really frustrating that he was so overlooked in the band. And given the nature of the recording, this is barely even a Beatles song because it was properly recorded once John had already left the band in 1970 and John Lennon left in September of 1969. So yeah, the backstory of the song is really frustrating, but the song itself, I believe it's menacing. I love the tone, I love the organ, I love the guitar, I love Paul McCartney's aggressive vocals in the chorus. Everything about this track is really well done, and I would definitely put it in the top 10 had I put it on the list, and it's really frustrating that I forgot to include it. I'm sorry guys, I made a mistake. It's really frustrating. I'm trying my best to fix it right now. You were supposed to get this video on Saturday, but now I'm supposed to cut this and put it on the video that was pretty much ready. Fuck me. So yeah, probably because I don't want to upload this video too late, you're gonna have it on Sunday. So I hope you can forgive me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the list. At number 6, we have I Need You, released in 1965 for the soundtrack Help. And then we have one of my favorites here. I love the romanticism and the catchiness of the song, but also this is one of his most important releases as a songwriter, mainly because prior to the release of this song, he only had a few more that he wrote himself, and they weren't that great. So I think this is the first time that he released something and people said, you know, damn, this guy can write some really good pieces of music. Once you analyze it and you look at the core of the song, it's just a basic pop rock love song, you know, but the genius of the track comes in the form of the use of the volume pedal for the guitar that adds that kind of like fading sound effect to the guitar. You know, it's like the main catch of the song next to the melody and the incredible backing vocals. The production is so clean and so sharp. It's so much better compared to some of the other songs in the album Help, you know, especially the other song that he has on this album, You Like Me Too Much. It's like night and day. Like he has, this is an amazing song, and so many of the songs from his solo discography follow a similar pattern when it comes to songwriting, which means that this also was a really important point in his evolution as a songwriter. So that's the reason why it falls to number 6. At number 5, we have If I Needed Someone from the album Rubber Soul. Now I have to say, this song isn't really as important as If I Need You, and it's definitely not as popular either, but for me, man, this has to be the song, the George Harrison song I've listened to the most. I love every detail about this song. I love the melody, I love the shiny, sparkly guitars, you know, I love the lyrics. I mean, so charming. Listen to this. If I needed someone to love, you're the one that I'd be thinking of. Like, that's such a lovely thing to say. Because they sound really childish and innocent, but they're a really good compliment. You know, it's really lovely, the lyrics in this song. And overall, there's very few songs, not only from George Harrison, but the entirety of the Beatles discography that make me feel as happy as this one, you know. So that's the reason why I put it higher. That songs like I Need You or The Inner Light or Within You Without You, I understand it may not be that important, but I believe that this was the point where we as fans started to realize this man is writing music that's on par in terms of quality with the Lennon-McCartney duo, aka the greatest songwriting partnership of all time. So yeah, that's the reason why it lands so high on the list. Now at number 4, we have While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Now I know that this may seem as very, very low because a lot of people believe this to be the best song George Harrison ever made, you know, but in my opinion, me putting it at number 4 is not really me denying the legend of this track. It's just acknowledging that George Harrison is such an amazing songwriter that he has more than one song that could be considered or could be ranked among the greatest pieces of music ever made. There are so many elements that make the song the masterpiece it is, like the incredible piano opening or the wonderful meandering bass line that kind of carries the entire piece of the track. The inventive drumming, I don't even know how to explain the type of drumming that Ringo Starr was toying around with in this song. Then you have an incredible guitar solo by Eric Clapton. You have the philosophical nature of the lyrics matching really well with the melody of the song. There's also the fact that this is where people realize, George Harrison is not only an amazing songwriter, but he's at the same level as John and Paul, and that was huge for him because he was constantly living in the shadow of these two incredible songwriters too, but now he was able to show his work to people and receive the same level of praise as, the other two. So that is the reason why I put it in at number 4. I definitely believe that George Harrison has better songs, but this, if anyone argues that this is his best track, I couldn't find the words to say why it's not the case, So if you want to put it at number 1, I definitely understand and I respect your decision. Me personally, there's 3 other songs that represent another version of George Harrison that's a little more relatable than this one, So number 4, an amazing track. Let's go with the top 3. At number 3, we have Here Comes the Sun, released in the album Abbey Road in 1969. And what can I say about this song that hasn't been said before? There's a story of the lyrics being kind of bittersweet. It shows Harrison's happiness knowing that his days as a member of the Beatles were numbered. You can tell that he was really excited to move on from the Beatles and finally release all the songs that he had saved up to that point, because he had a lot of songs, a lot of unreleased stuff that he went on to release in the album All Things Must Pass, which is one of the greatest albums ever made. The song is so bright and happy, you can almost feel sunlight filtering through the instrumentation. I kind of wanted to put it higher because next to If I Needed Someone, this is probably the song I've heard the most from Harrison's catalog, but honestly I believe that the songs that are above it are more meaningful to George Harrison as a songwriter. But for the most part, I believe that this is probably the most enjoyable overall song that George Harrison has to offer. It's a very simple but effective tune that manages to capture the feeling of happiness in such a way that that it comes from a dark place. That George Harrison was going through a really hard time, and his release, the fact that he doesn't have to face those hard times anymore allows you to see the light that comes from it too. So that is the main reason why it's at number 3. I believe that it's more meaningful to Harrison, as in his evolution as a songwriter than While My Guitar Gently Weeps. So that is the reason why it's at number 3. Let's go on with number 2. Because at number 2 we have Something, released also in Abbey Road, and this is hands down one of the most beautiful pieces of music ever made. I mean, the lyrics, the way the chords dance throughout the track, holding hands with the drumming while Harrison sings that timeless melody we all know and that we love to sing along to every time the song is played. The track is so calming and relaxing that you don't really expect the chorus to be as loud as it is, and that's the magic behind this song. You've heard it 1,000 times, but it still manages to surprise you. There's an argument to be made that this is the Beatles song that aged the finest. I mean, it doesn't really matter. As the years go by, the grace of the song grows, and as of 2024, it's one of the most popular songs the band ever released, and it's the point where everyone looked at the compositions from John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison, and George Harrison came out on top with 2 of the greatest songs ever released, Here Comes the Sun and Something, which is the reason why I think these tracks are a little bit more meaningful than While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I know there's people that would put those songs above this one, but personally I feel like Something is just the peak of George Harrison as a composer, as a songwriter, and as an overall artist. I don't think he ever wrote a track after this one that makes me feel the same way. But it's not number 1, because number 1 for me, it's Long, 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 released in the White Album back in 1968. And I honestly hate doing this. I hate putting a song that shouldn't be higher. I mean, this is pretty much the only time George Harrison played around with this type of music. It's very unique, Even in his solo discography, you're not going to find a lot of songs that sound like this one. And the reason why I don't like doing this is because if you were to ask me, why is this song number 1? Why do you consider this song to be the peak of George Harrison as an artist overall? Like, what is it about this song that you love so much? The answer is, I don't know. I have no idea. When I listen to the song, I try to focus and trying to find elements in it and how the chords flow, maybe the production, maybe the melody. There's so many things I could tell you I love about this track, but ultimately none of them are like the driving factor behind my enjoyability of the song or my connection to the song. I can tell you with complete confidence that I have no idea what is it about this track that makes me feel so connected to the world around me, you know, and that's something that comes from someone that doesn't really believe in religion. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in spirituality or energies or, you know, astrology. I don't believe in any of it, okay? But somehow this song makes me feel really emotional, and it makes me feel that like there's something bigger going on. It sounds silly, and I know it sounds kind of corny, but that's the best way I can describe it. It's really immersive, you know. It truly shows the desperation of you wanting to meet someone and the relief of finally being able to meet up with that person. In the case of George Harrison, that person is God. This is a song that is dedicated to God, or whoever God is for George Harrison, you know, but for you, it can be whatever you want, wherever your mind goes when you're listening to the song. And I do see people praising this song quite a lot on the internet, but for me, it's still underrated because it's not only George Harrison's best song, and for me, it's one of the greatest pieces of music ever made, and I'm just gonna say it, the best song in the White Album by far. So yeah, overall, I'm not able to explain, I can't put it into words why is it that I love this song so much, but I know deep in my heart when I ask the question, which is the George Harrison song that's most meaningful to you, Long 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 is the answer all the way through. However, that is only my personal opinion, so if you have your own, and I'm pretty sure you do, you can go ahead and leave it down below in the comments, and I'll make sure to read it and give you my opinion on your opinion. I'm really excited to see your list and, you know, your opinion on my list. I truly hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any other videos that I upload. If you want me to talk about any other topics related to music, if you want me to check out a song, album, or artist, you can leave it down below as well. I'll make sure to read it and for free requests as soon as I can. Once again, I hope that you guys enjoyed. I'm really excited to see your lists, but until then, bye.